Welcome to a special edition of March for Science Media Zone. I'm Rania Batrice, Interim Executive Director of March for Science. And let's welcome our very special guest, Julia Leopold. Julia is an organizer for Dress for STEM, and I'm so excited to jump right into this conversation. Welcome, Julia.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. And I just want to kind of, like I said, get right into this very important conversation. But first things first, tell us what Dress for STEM is.
Yeah, so Dress for STEM is really at heart a grassroots movement to get a conversation going about the need for more women in STEM fields, which is science, technology, engineering, and math. There's just such a stark underrepresentation of women in these fields. If you look at the entirety of the workforce, women make up about half of it, but when you look at STEM fields, women only make up about a quarter of STEM field careers. So there's really large gender gap, and we want to get more people talking about that. And ideally, we want to focus on young girls and their desire to pursue STEM in their future. So this is a way to highlight women who are already in these professions, to reach out to these young girls and say, hey, there are women that are pursuing these careers and are successful, and you can do that too if you want to. All it takes is just really following through with your education and going into these careers in the future. And as for how it got started, it was a collaboration among on-air female meteorologists. We made this into an annual event where women are welcome to wear purple. Anyone really who wants to join in solidarity can wear purple and just share information about this gender gap in STEM fields. But also, again, by wearing purple, you're putting a spotlight on the women who are already in the field and saying, hey, look, you've got a lot of positive role models here. And I'm so happy to say that this has expanded beyond on-air meteorology. I've seen people today posting on social media using hashtag Dress for STEM. I've seen computer scientists, psychologists, engineers, and other STEM fields all getting involved. It's just so exciting to see.
That's so great, and it's just so true. And I remember somebody asked me. I often talk about I am not in a STEM field, but a huge advocate and a huge supporter, and I'm actually very just obsessed with science and research. And I remember one time somebody asked me why I didn't pursue that field, and it's just so funny when you stop and think about what young girls tend to be encouraged to do and not to do. So it's very, very exciting that y'all have this very intentional effort moving to encourage young women and girls to pursue these careers. And this is actually the 6th year you've organized this effort, which is amazing. Congratulations. Can you tell me how it all got started and a little bit more? I know you touched on it, but just even a little bit more about why women in meteorology specifically are passionate about this effort.
Yeah, sure. It's kind of funny how it started. I don't think we ever, with how it initially began, I don't think we intended to have this this event happen every single year. So it was really organic. So way back in, it was, I think, late 2015, early 2016, there was this dress that was shared on a Facebook group for female broadcast meteorologists. We have this group because there are, again, a minority of women in this field. And we tend to have our own unique issues in the career, ranging from, just figuring out different, concerns with forecasting to what should we wear on air that's appropriate, what meets the criteria, because believe it or not, there is a very strict criteria for what female meteorologists are allowed to wear on air by their bosses, essentially. And we found a dress, and it was perfect. It hit all of the needs. It had long sleeves, it was a solid color, and it just happened to be flattering on everyone that put it on, and it was inexpensive. It was only $23. So one woman shared this in this Facebook group. Other women started buying it and wearing it and posting their pictures. And it just kept spreading like wildfire. And we thought it was so funny that we all had this same dress. So when, we really got into it, I ended up proposing like, hey, wouldn't it be great if we all wore this dress on the same day and used it as just a way to talk about how women in STEM are just underrepresented. We're also passionate about that issue because we've all experienced it. We've all been the minority in our atmospheric science classes when we studied in college. So we know what it's like. And everyone was so excited about it, and they said, yeah, let's do it. And when it came to picking a day, naturally, Pi Day was the day we chose. It's the celebration of the mathematical constant of pi, which starts with 3.14. I don't know the whole the whole thing out very far, but we were like, yeah, let's do this. Let's wear this dress on Pi Day, talk about the need for women in STEM, and it just really resonated with us. We look at the broadcast meteorology field, only 29% of on-air meteorologists are female. And when you look at a station, there's usually a chief meteorologist who's kind of the head honcho of the weather team. Only 8% of chief meteorologists are female. It's just such a small number, and we've got to see that change in the future. Something so unique about on-air meteorology is that this is an opportunity for the general public to interact with the scientist. It's, for many people, the only interaction that they have with a scientist on a daily basis. So when you don't have women in that role, you get this issue where people are just conditioned to believe that it's only men who fill these roles. And we want to change that, and we want to draw attention to that fact and show young girls that, hey, look, there are women who are in these science roles, and you can pursue that as well.
And that actually is a really beautiful segue to my next question, which is a continuation of what you're talking about, and that's the representation of women in STEM across the fields, not not just in one or another, but why is it important to have women represented across in and across all these STEM fields?
Yeah, I think that it just kind of points to diversity in general, and the fact that in scientific fields, these are really problem-solving fields. We're trying to solve problems, and we're bringing people to the table to bring solutions to the problems. And if you only have one type of person at the table, you're only going to get one type of solution. So if you can have more diverse people at the table, you get more diverse solutions. And I think that that's why it's so important to have more women, because we bring a unique perspective on all of these solutions that we're trying to attain. I think it's also just important in general when you're focusing on problems that are specifically related to women's needs, which we could see in something like the healthcare setting, regarding doctors and nurses. You want to have more women in those fields, so that way, as medical studies are being done, you have that female perspective being added, and therefore the medical solutions we're reaching are intended for females and not just for men.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It makes so much sense, and it's so important, and it's absolutely definitely an ongoing effort, as we know, but y'all are really putting it front and center, which is so important and so exciting. So thank you so much again, Julia, for joining us today, spending part of your Sunday with us here at March for Science. And to our viewing audience, thank you so much for tuning in. But before we let you go, Julia, I would just love for you to tell folks who are tuning in, and maybe somebody who's going to watch the restream, how can they participate? How can they join in? Even if they're not in the STEM field, how can they show solidarity?
Yeah, this is an inclusive event. If you are not in the STEM field yourself, that doesn't mean you can't participate. We recommend everyone getting involved if possible. And it's really simple to get involved. All you have to do is wear purple and post about it on social media. And when you do, use the hashtag #DressForSTEM. If you go on any social media site, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and you click on that hashtag, you search for it, you're going to see just a slew of posts from a ton of different STEM professionals. And you'll see us posting not just about statistics about the underrepresentation of women in STEM, but also this year we're highlighting female trailblazers in STEM. So looking back at some of the first women to carve out the path for the rest of us, it's just such a fun way to get excited about the STEM fields. And we highly encourage parents to check that out. And if you have a daughter that is interested in science, please share it with them and keep their interest going.
I love that so much. I mean, we really do have to start early, and having that encouragement from all sides is just so beautiful and wonderful. So thank you so much again, for joining us, for doing the work that you're doing, for being such a champion for girls and women. And again, to our viewing audience, thanks for tuning in. I just have one more exciting update for folks out there. The next edition of Women on the Front Lines is going to be airing on March 19th at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I'm going to be joined by our phenomenal co-host, Mary Anise Hegler. She's such a powerhouse. And our next incredible badass woman that we're featuring is Dreesen Heath from Human Rights Watch. We're going to be talking about justice, equity, reparations, and more specifically, climate reparations. So you're not going to want to miss this conversation. Tune in right here. You've got a chance to submit questions through Twitter and Instagram stories. And please join us this Friday, March 19th at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you so much again for tuning in. Thank you to our very special guest, Julia, and we'll see y'all soon.
Thanks for having me.